Hello, pipe organ friends. Today I'm back in the workshop, and you can see on my bench I've got a pair of organ manuals, keyboards, that I'm going to be working on today. One of the things I like so much about pipe organ work is there's so many different things to do, different skills to learn, different materials to use. And so today, this is the first time I'm going to be having a go at re-gluing some ivories onto an organ keyboard. I'm going to have a go at gluing these on with a whitened hot hide glue. There are other ways of doing it, but first, before I do that, because it's my first attempt at this, I need to make some tools. I need to make some clamps for clamping the keys on. So I've got some metal here, some bits and pieces, and the first job is to turn these into some clamps. So with the magic of editing, that should happen in just a second. Right, as if by magic, we're back, and I have now made a clamp. The way it works is we've got the key here and the key cover for the front. I've got a bit of brass which will go over that, and then this will just clamp around the bottom of the key like that and hold it whilst the glue is drying. So now we can start the process of actually doing the gluing. I've already worked out where all of the ivories go, which place they belong. You can look at the staining on the key cover, which gives a good idea, and also there's very faint profiles on the edge here. It probably won't pick it up on camera, won't focus, but they will match up with where the tails join on. So the first thing to do is to clean the underside of the ivory and the top of the key, and we want to pay particular attention to the join between the tail and the key front to try and get a good joint there so that we don't see any dirt or see the line as little as possible. So I've cleaned that up. I've used the file and tried to undercut the edge slightly just to get a nice tight joint at the top surface. And so now we're ready to glue it. And we're going to use a hot hide glue for this, but the ivory keys are slightly translucent and will show through the colour of the wood or the glue. So here's our normal hot hide glue, and you can see it's brown, so that would leave the keys brown or orangey, show through, the glue would show through. So what I've done is I've mixed in some titanium oxide into some hide glue, and there it is, and it's got a white colour which will help keep the ivories looking white. So what we're going to do is we're going to clamp it, and we're going to have this bit of brass preheated to the temperature of the glue to hold it, to keep the glue warm, to let it really have a good time to penetrate the joint and get the two bits stuck together, and also any moisture from the glue is prone to warp the ivories, so clamping it down like this will give it time to dry without warping. So you can heat these a number of ways. Some people use heat guns or hot plates, but I've just popped one into the hot glue, the water that heats the hot glue, so it will be up to temperature for the glue. I need to give that a little dry before that's used. But let's give it a go and see how it works. There you are. Dried off. Yeah. So I've read that the ivories can be quite prone to slipping around because of the glue. We'll see how that goes. Got some on there. So we want to get that joint nice and tight, and also get the key nicely, the cover nicely lined up with the edges. And then we'll pop our hot clamp cover on. And try and get it nice and tight. Yep, it is slipping around all over the place, like people have said. Right, I think that's lined up. It's just a case of leaving that now overnight to dry, and we'll see how it comes out in the morning. So welcome back. It's now the next morning, and the glue is dried on the key front, key slip, and we're ready to see how we got on. Take that off, and there we go. If we're focusing, okay. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. It's gone on nice and straight. There's a little bit of a lip that need a bit of smoothing down, but the joint's not too bad. It's about the same as some of the ones that are haven't come apart. So I'm quite pleased with that. Now just another 26 to go, I think. It's what you find working on pipe organs. Things might be interesting the first time, but when you have to do them 120 times or more, it can get a bit tedious and repetitive. As you can see, the keys are slightly yellowed. I did have a try putting them in front of a UV lamp from a UV sterilizer to see if that would do anything, but it didn't have any effect after a couple of hours. So I'll have to go and do a bit more research. But I don't want them too white and shiny. I'm trying to keep some of the patina, the age on them. So I'll just show you how I clean them. So you can put them on a flat bit of sandpaper and sand them clean, but they've got quite a lot of wear from finger marks over the years. Just there. So I was trying to keep that, keep a bit of the character. So what I've got is some of the finest wire wool that you can get. I think it's 4 zeros, and just give them that very light and gentle rub over, and it gets down into the dips, and it just wears a very fine layer of the ivory off, but doesn't leave any scratch marks. And do that on the tail as well. So it just gets the surface a little bit cleaner, but without wearing too much of the ivory away. Okay. So just repeat for all the rest. maybe now's a good time to address the literal elephant in the room. This organ keyboard is over 100 years old, and the key tops, the key covers, the slips, whatever you want to call them, are made of elephant's ivory. In the UK, the law on ivory is such that you can't buy or sell ivory. There are exceptions for things like musical instruments, which have only a small quantity of ivory in. You can get a license to sell them. I didn't buy this. There's no money or other services passed hands for this keyboard, so there's nothing illegal going on here, I can assure you. But some people will still be unhappy about a keyboard containing ivory, and they'd want the covers, the key slips, removed and destroyed, and that's up to them. That's their choice. For me, it's over 100 years old. It's a historic item, and it's a reminder to me that attitudes to things change over time. At the time, this was considered perfectly acceptable, but these days people wouldn't be very happy with it, and rightly so. But I'm happy to leave it on as a reminder of the past, and to think about it as a challenge for how I act today. What kind of things am I doing today that in 100 years' time might people be uncomfortable with? The top keyboard has now been cleaned up, and that's come up quite nicely. See the sharps and flats a lot nicer, a lot cleaner, and then most of the ivories are pretty good. You can certainly see where the organist has played the top keyboard the most, with some staining, so in the future I'll have to look and see the best way to reduce that staining a bit. If you've done this before and you've got any tips, please leave them in the comments. So I like reading comments and learning from what other people have done. So what I'm going to move on to next is to look at the balance rail pins, which are these ones here, and also the front pins, and they've got some corrosion on them, you can see. So I'm just going to clean that off a bit, polish them up with some more wire wool, and then lubricate them with some tallow, and put the keys back on, and we'll do the same for the front rail pins. You can see that the front rail pins here are slightly oval shaped, so that you can twist them around at an angle. You can see the one on the end maybe is at an angle slightly, just to take up any slack, any slop in the front of the keys, so you can adjust those. So next job, take all the keys off the top keyboard and clean those pins. I'm going to start by just giving the front rail pins a bit of a polish with some of the wire wool to get any corrosion off the pins. Right, so we got all of the balance rail and front rail pins cleaned up with a bit of wire wool. We've got the felts cleaned up as well and put back on. So the last thing to do before we put the keys back in is to lubricate the pins, and for that I'm going to use some tallow. There we go, just get a bit of it on my fingers, don't need to put very much. I'm just going to rub over each of the pins, just like that, just give them a tiny bit of lubrication and try and stop any more rust in the pins. So we can do that for both the balance rail and the front rail pins. So there we go, one keyboard well on its way to being repaired. Just got to glue all of these key slips on one at a time, and then do the whole thing over again for the other keyboard.